So what you do is you push that away. You kick it down the road, as you said, right? The problem is that next week or next month, that shit hors d'oeuvre comes back as a shit sandwich. Now it's bigger. It's a little bit more to take down. It's a little bit more unattractive. And you say, no way, I'm not eating that. You push it away. Next, it comes as a 3-course meal. And then finally, it comes as a buffet.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Tech Leaders Playbook. Today, I have a very special guest, Chad Brown. Welcome, Chad. Thank you for being here. Chad is a leadership engagement expert, something we all desperately need. He coaches founders and executives in the art and science of leadership for themselves, their teams, and their clients to create incredible results and experience fulfillment in their work, which is very, very important because we spend 9-10 hours of our days working, right? Chad, you founded a media production studio called Shade Tree Films in 2008, and you guys were servicing all kinds of incredible companies, Volkswagen, Target, Pixar Studios, and all kinds of stuff. His passion for leadership is obvious. I spent 5 minutes with him, and I immediately know how passionate he was. He's got a cool story. Chad, thank you so much for being here, man.
Man, I'm grateful to be here.
Yeah, let's get the party started, Chad. Let's start with your journey, man. How did you get up to this point? We don't wake up one day and become coaches, leadership coaches, right? What made you do all this crazy stuff?
Yeah, I'll give you the elevator version of the story so we can get into the good stuff. Basically, I started a bunch of companies that failed. Ultimately, then started a media production company because I remembered loving filmmaking in high school. I was part of the film club, and nobody ever explained to me that you could actually make a living doing that. Yeah, I didn't grow up in Southern California, so we didn't see examples of people being able to, and we just hit the market at the right time. The way the equipment price came down, the accessibility to the equipment, really all you had to do is focus on being a storyteller, and you could do really well. So this was a really pivotal moment for me, where we grew really fast. Like you mentioned, we started working with some big brands, and that necessitated growing a team, building and growing a team. And I was the worst leader that anybody could ask for. I'm telling you, the work that I do right now with leaders is mostly comes from what I learned when I failed, when I used people like tools, when I didn't have difficult conversations in a meaningful way, and I burnt people out, had high turnover, and ultimately culminated to me nearly losing my family because of the way that I had operated. I'd put the business first, and it wasn't going well. And so that's when I hired a coach to come in and help me with my business. He helped me turn that thing around, grow it meaningfully, in a way that it didn't control my life. And ultimately, he helped me through the entire process of even selling that business. So that's it's about somewhere in the middle there is where I decided I was no longer that interested in media production. I wanted to help business owners go through the transformation that I had gone through. And that's when I decided to jump into the work that I do now.
Oh, interesting. I mean, it's most people's dreams to do what you were doing before, right? How many people can say, I want to be in media production and I'm making money, yet I'm terrible at the leadership part. So I'm just going to put this away and do something a lot crazier and deal with a bunch of crazy people like yourself, right?
Yep, that's exactly right. If you want to help the crazy, you got to be a little crazy yourself.
There you go. I remind my friends all the time, we'll be in a group setting with like 15 entrepreneurs. I'm like, y'all know we're nuts, right? Because, they'll blame their team. They'll be frustrated. And we're like, we're part of the problem because we're nuts. It's just innate in us. And the things we do on a daily basis, manage multiple companies and be on multiple boards and all this crazy stuff, invest our money in things that are most likely going to fail. You got to be a little nuts to do those things. Chad, your story is really refreshing. Thank you. Most people think they're great leaders, right? And if someone tells them they're not a great leader, it's very challenging because they think they are. So for you to come out here in front of millions of people and tell us that you were a terrible leader, what made you think you were? Maybe you weren't, and maybe it's part of your story, but maybe you weren't a bad leader. I'll uncover that.
I was, and the only reason I know that I was is because of the results.
Okay.
That's the only thing we can look to as a source of truth, is what are the results that I'm causing out there with people. If I'm causing results, if I'm causing people to want to gravitate towards me, to want to grow around me, to be challenged by me, to go through, I'm going to use the word transformation. I don't want people to think that that's some pie in the sky or mystical word that I'm using. All I mean by transformation is change, is something, creating something new within themselves. If people are doing that because of my influence in their life, then I'm a good leader. If they're not, like if they are burning out, if they are being stopped or damned in their progress with their skills, or if they are backbiting or gossiping or all of it, all of it, I've experienced all of it. If that's present, I am not being an effective leader. Okay. And so all I have to do is look at the results. My invitation, anybody listening, just look at the results you're causing. And I know, I get it. You want to pretend like, you kind of opened this conversation up. You want to pretend like that's not your fault. It's like, this usually shows up for people like, oh, there's just not good help these days. Or why are people so lazy? And I would say, sorry, no. Why is there poor leadership?
Yeah. Well, Chad, I love that, because there's a great saying I've heard: the fish stinks from the head, right? So that's one thing.
It's a good one. I've never heard.
I think it's great. And one of the most, I would say, powerful things I ever did is take responsibility for when there's a mistake, even if I didn't do anything, right? And I'll just say it's my fault. And people are like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, it's my fault. As the leader of the organization, this is where I took us. That hire was me. I'm the one that chose or signed off on that person. I gave bad direction or bad strategy, or I signed off on something, and it's my fault. And it's like, people look around the room, and it's actually really refreshing, because what I realized is that was actually a very good, selfish, even comment, in the way where I was like, man, now I'm in control, right? All I can do is control myself. Right. So if I believe it's my fault, I can fix me, I can make changes to myself, and then hopefully the results follow. Seems like you've got a similar philosophy.
Absolutely. The language that I use around it, rather than fault, is I contributed to this. I have a significant contribution to this result. And if I can figure out what my contribution was that didn't work for the aim that we said we were going after together, whether that's with our employees, with our clients, with the market, whatever, if I can get clear on my contribution, then you're exactly right that I'm back in the driver's seat. Yep. But as soon as you use blame or shame, or I put three things in the same category: blame, shame, and credit. When we engage in those ways of thinking, we're taking the responsibility off of ourselves, putting it onto a circumstance or another person, and then I don't get any say in the outcome.
Yep.
And anybody who's in a leadership position or trying to build something significant, you want to be in the driver's seat. I promise you want to be in the driver's seat, because that's where you get to affect the result the most. So to just say, I have a contribution to this, I'm going to figure out what that is, and then I'm going to create something new.
I like it. There's another great saying I've heard or read or whatever many years ago is, business will get better when you get better.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. I love that one.
That's really good. Tell us a little bit about your philosophy on discomfort and growth, because you mentioned that there's a reward in discomfort, which obviously I agree with. Can you elaborate on how embracing that discomfort has driven your professional growth, your personal growth, and all that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we go back to my story of starting the media studio, really how I look at it is choose your hard. I love that saying. I think it was Jocko Willink that I heard, and he can be a little off-putting, and some of the stuff's kind of out there. But that was one of the things that really stuck with me, is choose your hard. There is challenge and discomfort no matter where you look, no matter what you're up to. And the interesting thing about evolutionary human psychology is that we make up that other people are not experiencing challenge. They're not experiencing something hard, right? But they are. It's just a different flavor. So it's like it's going to Baskin Robbins 31 flavors. Whatever flavor of hard you choose is going to determine where you wind up, how your future looks. And then guess what? Even there's a flavor of hard. And so my thing is I can be lazy. I can avoid difficult conversations. I can just try to smooth everything over all of the time. And that's going to be a certain flavor of hard, because I'm not going to get shit done. I'm not going to connect with people. My business it might grow, but it's going to be chaos in growth. All of those sort of things. Or I can choose the other flavor of hard, which is I'm going to get uncomfortable with people. I'm going to have challenging conversations early so that we get set on the right direction towards the aim that we said we were going to go towards. So I don't look at it as discomfort or not discomfort. I just look at it as, which discomfort do I want?
And how much of it do you want? Because if you drag on problems, man, does it hurt. And it hurts for a long time. And then it's no longer removing a Band-Aid, ripping off a Band-Aid. It is a lot more than that, right? It's like losing a limb. So it's very important to have those, it sounds like, uncomfortable conversations with whoever it is, whether it's an employee, your boss, your business partner, clients,
spouse.
Absolutely. Yep. It's set those expectations early on both sides and have those tough conversations. Because most of us, what we do is we just kind of kick it down the road because it's easier.
We avoid them.
Yeah. We sweep them under the rug. We smile. We move on because we have a lot going on, and it's easier being nice and passive, frankly. But I think it's very rewarding to have those great conversations now.
There's two actionable principles, if I can give those really quick in this. So the first one is short-term gain, long-term pain.
Love it.
Short-term gain, long-term pain. So if you're faced with a challenging conversation and you choose not to have it, that is a short-term gain. You get to feel comfortable in the short term. But guess what? Long-term, that's going to be very painful. So the opposite of that is short-term pain. Yeah. Rip off the Band-Aid, get uncomfortable. Long-term gain, more clarity, more connection. So that's the first principle. Second principle is, and I didn't ask you about language on this podcast, but can I use the word shit?
Yes, you can.
Okay, great. All right. So the second principle is what we call the Shit Hors D'oeuvre Principle.
Love this.
All right. So each challenge is presented to you as a shit hors d'oeuvre. It's a little teeny tiny piece of shit, and it doesn't look appetizing. You want to avoid it. You do not want to eat it because after all, it's shit, but it's just a little bit. So what you do is you push that away. You kick it down the road, as you said, right? The problem is that next week or next month, that shit hors d'oeuvre comes back as a shit sandwich. Now it's bigger. It's a little bit more to take down. It's a little bit more unattractive. And you say, no way, I'm not eating that. And you push it away. Next, it comes as a 3-course meal. And then finally, it comes as a buffet. The buffet is you cannot deny it any longer. It's like either I eat this or we die. Either I eat this and my business, it tanks, or either we eat this and we lose a huge client. Either I eat this and I lose all trust on my team. And so you have no choice but to eat it. But it's so much bigger now and so much more painful. The thing about it is that if you would have been paying attention and willing to eat it when it came to you as an hors d'oeuvre, you never have to deal with the buffet.
So eat the shit hors d'oeuvre is what you're saying.
That's right.
Chet, can you tell us an exact example that you maybe faced or your clients faced that look like a shit hors d'oeuvre and ended up being a buffet? And on the flip side, how someone ate the hors d'oeuvre and fixed the situation, didn't have to eat the buffet?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a client right now that I work very closely with, and we're exiting a crucial executive from that team. I say crucial because they lead probably, I would say, 45% of the team of this particular business, and we're exiting them because it got so bad that the low communication, the low aptitude for high results or high goals, the excuse making, all of that, it got so bad, and it was tainting the culture of the business, that there was no choice at that point to exit this person. Now, we can look back and we can see almost incrementally. That's the beauty of 2020, but you don't want to have that view on actually. But the beauty of 2020 is to have a post-mortem, go back and look, oh my gosh, we saw they displayed this very early on with just this small project. They didn't want to communicate about it. They didn't want to commit to the results, but we let it slide. We didn't want to address it because we've got bigger fish to fry. Yeah. You know, and so it all along the way, this executive gave us opportunities to eat that shit, and I was part of this. I'm telling on myself just as much as I'm telling on anybody. Is they gave us that opportunity, and we didn't eat it because we thought there were bigger fish to fry until we just couldn't. It had to end.
And I'm guessing it was a lot uglier and more complex.
So painful, man.
Mm-hmm.
So painful, and touches every piece of the business,
wow,
including client reputation, all of that sort of stuff. So that's an extreme example of when we ignored that opportunity. And look, I'm not here preaching like I'm perfect. I'm here inviting to a practice and saying this is a practice that I'm committed to engage in, not perfect. Miss it all the time. But the opportunity is to notice where I missed it, get recommitted for the next time. And then honestly, the Shit Hors D'oeuvre incident that you're talking about, it happens every day. It goes unnoticed. Mm-hmm. That's the challenge with this, is because when you're willing to get uncomfortable in just a moment, give a little bit of feedback that's challenging to give, and set a new expectation, you just ate the Shit Hors D'oeuvre and nobody notices.
Chad, what?
Maybe not even you.
Let me ask you a question. What's a good example of catching this shit hors d'oeuvre and eating it in a good way, or it's petty, right? Like, because there's certain as leaders, we have to make two decisions, right? Is this worth my time? Is it
Sure.
my shit hors d'oeuvre to eat or someone else's? And then two, is this something that I really have to solve, or is it's petty, let it go? Because that's where usually the shit hors d'oeuvres become the buffets, right? Because I don't want to be petty. It's silly. That's micromanaging. And we're told not to do that, right? We're taught to let people be free, and great experience, which is great. But then you end up with these scenarios, and it's bad for both sides, right? It's not like it's bad for the business and great for that employee, because that employee continues not to be effective and no one calls their bullshit, frankly, ever.
That's right.
So tell me about that.
There's a really simple rule of thumb that I live by, and that is if what is being done or said puts us on a trajectory, if it continues, it puts us on a trajectory to not reach our aim, our vision, or our goal together. If I can project this into the future and it causes us to miss that aim in any way, then it's worth talking about.
Yeah.
It's when, it's the rocket ship example I'm sure everybody's heard, is like off by a degree. Mm-hmm. And in space, you miss it by 1,000,000 miles.
Absolutely.
Right? So if you launch that thing off by a degree, you're not going to hit the mark when you get there. So if you can future pace it, and this is the talent of a leader. This is the job of a leader, to look at what we're doing now, what decisions we're making, what conversations we're having, and what is the future in that. And does it get us where we say we're committed to going? And oftentimes, so I love that you brought up nitpickiness or micromanaging. It's a rebuttal I get to this all of the time. And I just say this: wouldn't you have rather checked in on it and gotten clear on it, even if it's something that's nothing? You can check in on it with somebody that isn't micromanaging. It isn't, hey, you did this wrong. It's just like, hey, I'm just checking in on your thinking. I heard this word, or I heard you say this. Just want to check in on that, because I was confused about it. I wasn't quite sure that was going to get us where we want to go. Can we talk about it?
Nice.
Now, here's where a true leader scales their leadership. Because if you're trying to do this all yourself for your organization, you're in trouble. It's unscalable. But if you can enroll the leaders in your organization, even if they're not leaders by title or salary, but you enroll leaders within your organizations that are willing to also do this, you've now scaled that influence, and it's not all up to you.
Yeah. The key difference I've seen between, I've had two directors, and they're both phenomenal for different reasons. But one was is becoming a phenomenal leader. The other one was never really going to be a leader. You could tell, because one wanted to kick the can down the road. They were uncomfortable. They wanted to pass the monkey off to me, right? Whose monkey is it? It was always my monkey at the end of the day. And I've got another one that I don't think she loves it, but she has these tough conversations early on, and you could tell the impact it plays, because the bar is set pretty early on in people's careers. Really, really like that. There's a couple of things I want to throw in. So trust but verify, right? People forget that. It's like, I trust my team. You should trust your team. You should never work with people you don't trust. Verify that they're doing a good job. They're on track to do what they said they would do. That's one. And then, there's a saying, eat the frog. I think it's a French saying. It makes sense, right? They like frogs. Lick the frog, eat the frog, whatever. Do the most difficult things first and get it out of the way, right?
Right on.
That's huge.
Right on.
But you talked about vision, and you talked about scalability, which is very, very important. What do you think the key elements are that are essential for the team, not only to understand the vision, but to drive it forward autonomously? Like, how do you get that balance going?
Yeah, this is one of the places that I think a lot of people who are in leadership positions miss the opportunity of furthering their vision. So it's up to you as a leader to enroll people, and I use that word very specifically, is to enroll them into the vision that you have for the company. Now, there are so many elements to this. I actually run a 6-week experience for founders, and it's all based around enrolling your team into your vision. Because if they're not enrolled, they will actually get in the way, not consciously, but they will do things that sabotage the vision because they have not been enrolled in what it can mean. And this, everybody perk up your ears, because they're not enrolled in what it means for them. We are animals. We are creatures of nature, and we walk around going, what's in it for me?
Absolutely.
What's in it for me? And guess what? It's not just a paycheck. That's an easy way out. That's an excuse. Most leaders like, I pay you. Why won't you just do the job? You get the paycheck. Not going to happen. For most people. Some people it will, and the pay has to be high, and it has to be secured, and there's some psychological monuments that have to exist in order for pay to be the motivator. But most likely, people have something that they want.
Of course.
They have something that motivates them. And the opportunity is, this is how you enroll. The opportunity is to show them how, if you as a company achieve the vision, they will also achieve their vision.
Yep.
That the company, that the organization and the experience and the adventure together will contribute to them getting what they want out of life.
That's brilliant, Chad. I don't know if we got into it, but I'm a founder of a global technology and go-to-market recruiting consulting firm, and the number one thing we talk about is finding alignment, right? And when we talk about alignment, we're not talking about skills. That's easy. You can figure that out. Not even culture. We can figure that out. It's alignment of my vision with your vision. Because if your vision is to be here for a year and get a director title, so then you can move on to go work for this other company, we're not aligned, right? Because I can't get you to that point in a year, and by the time I kill myself to help get you to that point, you're gone. We're not aligned, right? And so but finding out early, that's great, because now I know you want that. I'm not going to hire you as permanent and invest and go crazy, but hey, you got skills. Let's do something different together, and I love that. So why do we get our hires right, who stay, grow, get promoted 4 or 5 times? because we look for alignment, right? All that other stuff, you can figure it out. That's what the interview process is for. So that's great.
And this is what, so many leaders approach the way that they hire. Like we need to be a company full of people who want to progress, who want to promote, who want to, and I always encourage them. No, that's not the case. In fact, many people don't have that as a vision for their life. That's not their aim. Many people, it's to have a fulfilling career that allows them to be present with their family. And those can be just as meaningful team members and contributors as those who want to drive hard, put in the extra work, all of that sort of stuff. So it's understanding, what is it that you want? What is it that you're aiming at? And then does it fit somewhere in my organization?
That's huge. I agree. There's also a couple things, you hear a lot about quite quitting, right? On the employee side, I think companies quite quit on the employees as well, right? And it's a massive problem. And I think it's a very passive aggressive approach that, again, it comes from this not eating the shit hors d'oeuvre and just kicking things down the road, right? Because early on, you see red flags. Early on, you keep moving, you don't bother addressing the situation. Next thing you know, it's too late, right? Passive aggressively, I've exited mentally. With you, I have no future plans for you, and vice versa. What a waste of time and effort and money and resources. And it's a joke, right? And then let's talk about sabotage. If that person is not motivated or excited about the business and they are a manager or director, oh my God. I mean, you just 10x the problem, right?
Well, even if they're an IC, but they deal with your clients.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. That's huge, man. And there's a really great saying too, when it's inevitable, make it immediate, right? So if you know this is not going to work for either side, like you got to exit immediately. It's best for both sides, I think,
Yeah. I call that using people as a tool. As soon as that person is no longer a human with an aligned vision to the organization's vision, as soon as that's gone, and you're just getting a result from them, you're just getting an outcome from them, that's like using them like a tool. Now, I don't say that with judgment. Sure, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. I've done it. That's exactly what I was doing in my media business, is I was using people as tools. I got an outcome from them with not much care. They should see the cool brands we're working with. Look at the cool work that we're doing. Can you imagine having this opportunity on your resume? Man, we're paying them well. They should just want to do everything for us and give this result. And I'm not really concerned at all about what they want or where they're going and how I contribute to that. Once I'm there, I'm just no judgment, but just know you're using them as a tool, and tools wear out.
Especially if you don't maintain them.
That's right.
Wow. Good timing to jump into work-life balance, right? I know you're big with family, and many of us are, and we have to use that same care for our teams, obviously. How do you balance both for yourself and your team? I hate the word work-life balance, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Yep. How do you create an opportunity where everybody can truly get their work done and contribute and win? The company wins, they win. At the same time, their families win, their lives, they get to enjoy life, right? We work so we can explore the world and enjoy and go on vacations. How do we get that balance right, in your opinion?
The place that I start with this conversation is rewriting the script around balance. I think we talk about it in a very unproductive, ineffective way. The way that we talk about it is balance like a justice scale. Like you think about a scale, when you put one thing on one side, the other side goes up, and you got to put something on the other side to make the other side go up, right? And then at some point you find some quote unquote, people who can't see me if they're listening in audio, I'm using air quotes, find some balance. And then as the moment you find that balance, which is like, I'm giving equal time to my family and equal time to my work. Once you find that balance, you're going to have a manager quit, or you're going to have a kid get injured or sick. And it throws that balance completely out of the window. And so I think we're making ourselves really tired chasing something that doesn't exist, if not for a fleeting moment. And so instead of the justice scale, I don't know if you ever did this, but I was a master at avoiding my chores when I was a kid. And when my chore was to sweep the kitchen floor, I would always find myself balancing the broom on my hand with the bristles up in the air and moving my hand to try to keep it up in the air. And then I would set a timer, and I really got into it. I was a master at avoiding what I was actually supposed to be doing. And that was really, really fun. I think about that when I think about balance, which is the interesting thing about that experience is if you think about balancing a broomstick on your hand, you have to keep your gaze on the bristles to keep it in the air. That's your focal point. The minute you look down at your hand, what happens?
It falls.
It falls because you don't know which direction to move to keep it in the air. And so I compare it to that. That's a great analogy, is that the bristles, the broom head is the aim. That's the vision. That's what we said we're about for both the business and for our families. That's one thing most founders listening to this, if my experience tells me right, they don't have a vision for their family. And I say that's just as important as a vision for your business.
Huge, man.
Now, if you can keep your eye on both of those things, your hand almost moves automatically to keep them, to keep you on the course for that vision, to keep it in the air. You'll make decisions based on what you've said you're committed to, rather than decisions that are based on putting out fires or, all of that sort of stuff. So that might look like not taking a big client that looks like a big opportunity because it's going to get in the way of the vision of the family, or vice versa. So, and these things are flexible, man. Yeah. These aren't things we write in stone. And it takes a lot of negotiation with both your business and your family. Yeah. Like for me, one of the topics of conversation at our dinner table is what I'm up to at work and what it's requiring of me. And my kids have input. They just do. They get to tell me, I get to tell them hey, here's a project I'm working on. I'm extending my hours. That could mean I'm going to miss this thing, or, that sort of thing. What do you think about that? And we negotiate. We do. And what I've found is that my kids and my wife are so much more forgiving of my absence when it's needed, because they feel like they have a say.
It's huge.
Same thing at work is that it's a negotiation, and they are for this. This is how I describe it best. My family is for my work, and my work is for my family.
Wow.
And I choose to partner with clients that know that I love my family and that I'm there for them. And so it's funny, man. Even my clients will check in with me when I'm going to an on-site in Puerto Rico for a week. Yeah. My clients will check in with me and say, "Hey, does this work with your family schedule?"
Nice.
Because I've chosen to make those partnerships and keep it on the forefront. They know it's part of my vision.
That's huge. Yeah, so many of us say, we work for our families, which is accurate. The problem is we mean that. Sometimes our actions, unfortunately, end up being counterintuitive, right? They counter that, not by design, but by just, I'm doing this for my family. It's like, how much more money will your kids need when you die? Why don't you just enjoy them now? You want to give them money? Give them money now. You want to give them experiences? Give them experiences now, right? My favorite new book is Die With Zero. A friend of mine recommended. It's a really cool book. It's about just...
It is a cool book.
You've read it? Oh, no way. Okay.
Yeah.
Just great,
man. I read the cliff notes of it. I didn't read the whole book.
You got to read the whole book, man. It's an easy read anyway, but it really just talks about just enjoying them now and letting them enjoy you now. Because whatever extra amount of money you're going to leave for them, who cares, right? They want time with you. I always laugh when my parents talk about how they're going to split up something, some little, is like, I don't care. Enjoy. None of us care about it. Just enjoy your life, please. And sometimes they just don't. They don't listen. Chad, let's talk a little bit about effective systems and structures, right? Because that's all this is nice, but without a system or structure, it's not sustainable. Could you discuss some of the proactive systems you've implemented in businesses that you've had that actually worked, or your clients that help sustain growth and profitability?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a pretty vast conversation. I've worked because I come into a lot of different organizations, will have a system set in place. Systems like EOS or, some of the other productivity management systems that exist out there. And honestly, I can work in any of them. My encouragement to any team is to not get dogmatic about your system. Don't miss the purpose in the doing. They're helpful. They're helpful to keep track of things. They're helpful to make sure we're having productive conversations and that we're working toward aims and all of that sort of stuff. Really, really helpful. If you choose to use rocks or KPIs or whatever system it is for you, it doesn't really matter. That is the how. I'm interested in the why and the who.
The who.
Why are we doing this? Yeah. Who is huge. Yeah. That's a great statement. Very confusing. But I always want to take the conversation back to who do I need to be to make this system effective? So you could choose any of them.
What's your favorite, Chad?
I think EOS has the most to offer as far as a systematic way to continually check in on what we're up to on a quarterly basis. And quarters seem to be, just from my experience, this is anecdotal, but quarters seem to be a pretty good time frame for us to be consistently talking about as far as effectiveness to get things done and move the needle. I think particularly when you talk about a global team, so you've got ICs, you've got managers, you've got executives. I think a year is a interesting concept for executives and maybe managers. But when you start talking about ICs and you're talking in terms of a year, it's really challenging for some reason for those positions to catch on to that and buy into that vision or that action plan. So the breakdown of the quarterly and the EOS system is really powerful. And then you can further break that down into months and
weeks.
Anyway, there's things I
like EOS. EOS played a big factor in us becoming a business, a scalable business, right? Because it just gives you the kind of what do you call it in the bowling alley? The bumpers. It gives you the bumpers to kind of stay within a system and be guided by a system and keep everybody in one system. So everybody's kind of rowing towards the vision, right? That's huge.
Yeah. The word of warning that I put out there is just don't fall asleep to the system. Yeah. You can have an L10, which is if you don't know, that's an ES or a level 10 meeting. That means a departmental meeting or an executive meeting. It's a weekly structure, and you check in on your rocks and your IDS and all of that sort of stuff. You can have that, and people can actually fall asleep in the system. Sure. So they're doing the actions, and it looks like something's happening, and then come the end of the quarter, you found out that everybody was playing the role, but not actually putting in the work. So whatever system you implement, don't pretend like that's going to do the work for you.
And I like that you said don't get dogmatic about it, because what ends up in the EOS system, like you said, is you create these rocks, sometimes in a rush, and you spend a quarter doing something, and one of two things happens. You truck through it and actually accomplish it, and you look up and go, yeah, that's nice. What does that even? It didn't mean anything. It actually didn't do anything, but that's cool. We got to celebrate. Or, you just keep trucking along and you don't hit the rocks and you feel like crap. But wait a minute, you actually accomplished a lot by just attempting that damn rock. I've seen that happen. One of the best things I ever did is I went into a meeting and into the quarterly, Chad. I come in. And everybody's, we're trying to go through the issue processing. And I was like, let's just turn off the TV, forget the issue processing. We're going to spend an hour just talking about opportunities. We put up like 50 ideas and opportunities. And that's the best thing that happened, in that quarter, in that year, because we we're just constantly, you're solving problems, talking about problems, and then you never look at opportunities. You literally never look at opportunities. So I thought that was a good way to get away from the trap.
Such a poignant observation for a flaw in that system is that there's very little emphasis looked in on the opportunity.
And if there's no issues, you're like, we got to look for issues. There's no issues. Let's look at opportunities. Chad, what advice do you give to new entrepreneurs? Right, they're getting started in their journey as founders, or even they're intrapreneurs. Right, how do you set up their businesses to allow for personal freedom? Because I know that's important for you.
Yeah. I run a group on School of entrepreneurs. Most of them are solopreneurs with dreams of building a team. And I do this for free. It's entrepreneurs can join it. We have a weekly coaching call. There's resources in there. And the reason that I do this is because there's not a lot of resources out there helping entrepreneurs, early entrepreneurs or solopreneurs think like founders. If you will think, again, it happens in who you are first. Who are you becoming, or who are you being in the moment? And one of the questions that I ask myself is, is this something that next year Chad would do? And and that's a powerful question for me, because I'm always tempted to take on tasks that I shouldn't take on. I'm always tempted to put out fires that just need to burn. And when I project to myself next year and the team that I'm going to have and the income that the revenue that I'm going to have, all that sort of stuff, I'm asking myself, would that guy spend his time on this? And that's the major question that drives that conversation in that group. And man, the stuff that shows up is so powerful when people start asking themselves that question. They let go of things that don't matter. They start to identify the things that they're doing that don't contribute to where they say they want to go, but they're doing it because it's just the fire in front of their face that they think they need to put out. And so that group is a practice in having that conversation. How do I scale myself? How do I scale myself? So if this is something that Chad next year wouldn't do, but it needs to be done, how could I get it done next month without my time?
That's huge.
And it's just those little incremental steps that finally somebody gets to next year and they're like, holy shit, I got a team, whether it's a team of contractors or I've got a couple of employees, and I'm focusing on working on my business, and they're executing tasks that I never thought I would be able to give to somebody. And it's just those little moments, man. It's those little decisions. It's that, how do you project yourself into the future?
It's huge, because part of the reason we start our own business is because we want to be our own boss and we want to have freedom. Yet what do we end up doing? Having the least freedom, right?
We become prisoners.
I mean, my employees have more flexibility than I do, right? Because they could work from home a day or two, and if they need a week off, they're happy to take it. Yet I'm like, can't work from home. I got these meetings. I got to be there for my team, and it's a really tough balance, right? It's a tough balance for being there for your team and being there and being present and showing them that you care and that what they do is important, without sacrificing your own personal identity and freedom. So that's huge. Last question. Second to last question. What's been your most fulfilling aspect of your coaching founders, and kind of, do you have a story, a quick one? Because I know we both got to wrap soon, but like, what's a cool story through your coaching this person had a huge impact, or you had a huge impact on their success?
Yeah, I think about founders, it's the exact experience that you're talking about, is feeling like you're a prisoner to your business and there's no way out of it, and you've created this thing. And so that moment when the founder is empowered to realize, oh, there could be another way. It's not a better way, it's not right or wrong, it's just like, oh, maybe what I've made up this thing is not actually the case. I have a client, here's a story for you. I have a client who is a high-end financial advisor. When I met him, he and his wife co-own this financial firm. They have, when I met him, he had 5 employees, and they were stretched. really stretched. I mean, he's kind of a frugal dude, so he's like getting the most out of everything and everybody. And at the time, he was working 80 plus hours a week on this business. But most significantly is that his relationship with his boy, his son, who is 10 now, was completely strained. He was absent from his life, and anytime they were together, they fought, because, I mean, for obvious reasons, we don't need to go into that, but, and he was just in a bad way, and he didn't see any way out, but he loved his business. He loved the people that he worked with, and he loved his clients. He thought, he knew he was making a big difference for them. And these are large portfolio clients that he's working with. And through this process of just considering maybe there's another way in each little step. So he would bring some challenge to me, right? And he has made up what that challenge is and how it needs to be treated. And the question that I ask them all the time is, what if it was different? Are you open to it being different? Is there another way that could be handled? If somebody else could do a better job than you at that thing, would you hire them to do it? Yeah, of course I would. Okay, great. Let's go find somebody that does it better than you.
Absolutely.
And through that process, over a 2-year, I just had a call with them earlier this week, man. And I wish you could see their faces, him and his wife. He's working out every day. Huge step for him. He's at every single soccer game. He and his boy are sitting down and playing video games and playing board games, and they're laughing. It's not that everything's perfect, but it's drastically improved. He worked under 40 hours last week. And it's just, I mean, that's why I do what I do, because I've experienced it myself. And then I've seen other people create it in their own lives. Huge, man. And by the way, his firm is growing at a rate that he has never experienced before, and he's acquiring 2 other firms in the area.
What a great story.
So cool.
And the best part of the story was the fact that his family dynamic is better, but then yet we look at it and his business is booming because of it as well. So I think that's a great story, Chad. Thank you for sharing it. Last question. How do people find you and learn from you and utilize your expertise?
If you're an early stage entrepreneur, get into my school group. It's called Founders League. I'll share the link with you and you can put it out there. It's free for now. It's not always going to be free. It's high impact, cool community. Everybody's contributing. Get in there. Otherwise, LinkedIn's a great place to find me. I put out content on there. Nice. I check my messages there, and I'm pretty well established with who I am and my network on there. So I would love to connect with anybody on LinkedIn.
Love it. Chad, thank you so much for being here, man. Ton of value. Appreciate you.
Oh, thanks for having me. What an honor, awesome, man. Generous host.
It was a lot of fun, Chad. I'll see you around, brother. Thanks for everything. And that brings us to the end of another great episode of the Tech Leaders Playbook. I want to thank you for joining us and hope you took away some valuable insights to apply in your professional journey. Don't forget to subscribe on your preferred podcast platform so you don't miss out on the next great conversation. I promise it'll be good. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd appreciate if you could leave us a review. Your feedback not only helps us improve, but it also helps others discover the podcast. Better leaders mean better working environments. Better working environments leads to happier people. Remember, a rising tide lifts all boats. I'm Avetis Antaplyan, and this has been the Tech Leaders Playbook. Keep leading, keep learning, keep giving, and I'll see you on the next one. Until then, stay inspired, my friends.